A small town takes on a big battle about gun control tonight. It started with a move to relax gun laws in Oak Harbor, and it's turned into an example of gun debates going on in communities all across the country. King 5's Eric Wilkinson joins us live in Oak Harbor, where a lot of people will be watching a city council vote tonight. Right, Eric?
That's right. We're still an hour away from the start of this meeting, but people have been showing up here since before 4 o'clock today in what's already a pretty packed room right now. All this started with a move to repeal the city's ban on guns in city parks, but then Sandy Hook happened and the political climate changed. Luke Yonkman considers himself a law-abiding citizen. He also considers himself a patriot.
It's right there at all times.
Which is why he is willfully breaking a city law by carrying his gun in an Oak Harbor park.
If you think about it, where do most people get mugged? Walking through the park. You know, and if they were able to defend themselves, then it'd be less likely for that to happen.
The disabled Afghanistan vet says Oak Harbor's law banning guns in city parks is illegal because state law allows those with the proper permit to carry a firearm here.
I am always armed when it is legally allowed, because I believe in order to effectively mitigate crime and tragedy, you should always carry when allowed.
Ask the question, no.
That's exactly what he was doing at this city council meeting last month.
And I am concealed carrying at this moment.
Yonkman addressing the council, which was considering repealing the gun ban when he announced he was armed. It was barely a month after the Sandy Hook school massacre, prompting Councilman Rick Almberg,
If I may, I'll excuse myself at this time then,
to walk out.
This is a national issue. This is a national tragedy.
Almberg is also a veteran and a gun owner, but he believes a park, let alone a city council chamber, is no place for firearms, and that Sandy Hook should remind us of that.
It does not make sense that we try to function in a democratic society where people have to bear weapons in an area where you're going to have controversy in your council chambers.
Councilman Almberg says that Sandy Hook created the need for a comprehensive federal firearms policy for this country, but until then he'll have to face a room full of angry gun owners here tonight, a packed room, many of them packing guns themselves. The vote on the possible repeal of the gun ban in city parks here is expected to take place tonight. We'll have an update for you come up tonight at 6:30. For now, I'm Eric Wilkinson reporting live in Oak Harbor.
Thanks, Eric. Today marks 1 year since Josh Powell.
We begin tonight with a chaotic council meeting in Oak Harbor where the debate over gun control had tempers flaring. I'm David Rose.
And I'm Hannah Kim. People pack City Hall demanding to be heard. Kate Burgess is live outside Oak Harbor City Hall. Kate, what are people so upset about?
Well, that passion is all about gun control. More than 150 people showed up here tonight, many bringing their guns to make their point and share some strong opinions with City Council.
I ask that Mr. Wahlberg, Mr. Svadius, you immediately resign.
Packed into City Hall, many packing heat. Citizens of Oak Harbor lined up to make their voices heard.
I would challenge any council member who is unwilling to fulfill their oath they are sworn to perform to immediately resign their position as council member.
The gun debate in this small Whidbey Island community began several years ago when Oak Harbor banned guns in city parks, but took an unexpected twist last month when council member Rick Almberg walked out of a meeting after learning an Army vet there was carrying a concealed weapon.
If we have somebody who is in the chambers armed, it's not necessary. I'll make a motion that we ask them to check their weapon with the police chief or to the police department. This is my motion.
The motion failed, but Almberg's action sparked a much bigger debate.
More guns in more hands in more places didn't make people safer. It just made people more dead.
Mayor Dudley, should these two enemies of the Constitution of the United States and the state of Washington fail to resign, then I respectfully request that you...
Some here tonight even calling for the councilman's resignation, and some just defending the legislator's right to work in safety.
When you get into a situation where there's a heated debate, the last thing you want is for somebody to have their next answer to be off of their hip. So it's not appropriate to have them around our elected officials.
We have a war zone going on here with respect to weapons, and it didn't make sense to me that we would sit here and say, oh sure, it's okay.
We have a motion on the floor and a second by Councilmember Almberg.
But just a short time later, Almberg seconded the motion to repeal the gun ban after a Second Amendment advocates group brought out the big guns.
An organization known as the Second Amendment Foundation has recently threatened to file suit against both the City of Oak Harbor and individual members of the City Council.
The council unanimously repealed the gun ban in city parks, leaving some residents relieved but slightly annoyed.
The law is illegal. It's been preempted by the state. Seattle tried it, went to appeals court, Supreme Court. They said, no, don't do that. Stop wasting our money.
But I will never give up my gun.
Now, because the city passed this as an emergency ordinance, guns will be allowed in city parks effective immediately. Live in Oak Harbor, I'm Kate Burgess, Q13 Fox News.
It looked more like a scene out of the Wild West at tonight's city council meeting in Oak Harbor. The chambers were packed with people packing heat in a showdown over a city law banning guns in parks and marinas. King 5's Jim Foreman was there as the discussion became a debate over gun control.
Well, tonight here it was clear that the gun lobby was flexing its muscle, and it showed just how powerful it can be in our state. The Second Amendment Foundation had Oak Harbor's city councilors so backed into a legal corner that they declared an emergency so that they could pass immediate action and give in to the gun lobby's interests.
I first want to thank everybody for coming out.
From the get-go, you could tell this was no ordinary city council meeting.
I'm very involved in my community, and since I was 21, I've carried a firearm.
Just one look around this room, and it was obvious these people were here to talk about their guns.
A right not exercised is a right lost.
It was the Second Amendment Foundation which threatened to sue Oak Harbor if it did not lift its ban on guns in parks. And that had the council take notice.
We got a second letter from the Second Amendment Foundation, and they certainly were threatening.
Seattle fought and lost a similar battle in court. Tiny Oak Harbor just doesn't have the money to put up a fight.
It's pretty obvious that we're going to be sued, and potentially council members too.
And while some spoke in favor of expanding gun-free zones, even to include council chambers,
I just don't think guns belong in here.
The courts have ruled that it's up to the state and not local governments like Oak Harbor to enact gun laws.
Thank you for your time.
And all this is setting up another showdown. Only the next one may be in Olympia. As of tonight, it is once again legal to carry your gun in the playgrounds and parks of Oak Harbor. And that's where we are tonight in Oak Harbor. I'm Jim Foreman, King 5 News.
Point of the nationwide gun debate.
And the Como4 problem solvers uncover an alleged gun running operation in our own backyard. Thousands of weapons making their way to the streets. A county worker accused of showing his wares on the taxpayer's dime. In the nearly 2 months since 27 people were gunned down in Newtown, Connecticut, guns have taken center stage in a fierce and growing debate all over the country.
But tonight, Western Washington is in the spotlight, and we have Team 4 coverage. Como4 problem solver Kristen Drew has the shocking story of a county employee accused of moving truckloads of illegal weapons.
But we begin with Como4's John Humbert, live in Oak Harbor, where a small town's internal struggle with gun control gained national attention and might have contributed to a big change tonight. John?
Well, as that debate intensifies, Dan, people in this town of 22,000 will be able to carry guns in parks and other public places. This comes despite a now infamous voice of opposition.
Sir, my mother was a Jew. My family went to the chambers. I will not go into the night quietly while these two ask me to board the train.
A jammed meeting in Oak Harbor focused on the rule of law and the firearms on quite a few hips.
We cannot allow the Second Amendment or any part of the Constitution to be eroded.
Oak Harbor became the flashpoint for the national debate on gun safety.
Excuse myself at this time then.
2 weeks ago, council member Rick Almberg walked out of the meeting after an armed citizen showed up and the video went viral. He and others supported an existing ordinance banning guns from public parks and the marina area. Tonight, he stood firm in the wake of Newtown.
This is a national debate. It's a national tragedy.
And others agree with him.
More guns in more hands in more places didn't make people safer. It just made people more dead.
The presence of armed citizens in these locations is a threat to the safety of other citizens.
But there's a key problem. State law blocks cities from gun bans like this one.
They will not engage in theatrical grandstanding in order to obtain the political support of some of their emotionally driven constituents.
Second Amendment supporters threatened to sue, so the council voted to lift the ban.
Obviously, it's unanimous today to do the right thing.
Almberg doesn't regret his headline-grabbing act. he just wants to move on.
This issue has been a little bit of a diversion to the big things that we have to do.
Supporters of the ban are urging national and state leaders to actually loosen up some of these laws and let local cities decide for themselves what's best. There's also been similar work done in Seattle that potentially could lead to a statewide voter referendum. Reporting live in Oak Harbor, John Humbert, KOMO 4 News.
Thank you, John. A Kitsap County employee is busted for gun running and allegations he showed off his wares on county time. Now detectives are trying to figure out where the guns came from and where they went. KOMO 4's Kristen Drew is live tonight with the latest on this investigation. Kristen?
Dan, detectives served another search warrant today looking for more guns and other stolen items. In the meantime, the suspect remains in jail and the investigation is far from over.
This is what sheriff's detectives found in Trevor Hawley's Port Orchard bedroom, an assortment of pistols, hunting rifles, and rare handguns. Hawley, the lead mechanic for the Kitsap County Department of Public Works, was arrested last week accused of gun running.
The issue here is we have firearms. Firearms are always a concern.
Hawley isn't even supposed to have firearms after violating a domestic violence protection order 3 years ago. But detectives say Hawley was sending thousands of them out of state from Port Angeles. On one occasion, investigators say Hawley told a coworker he picked up $50,000 worth of guns and pocketed about 20 grand.
He moves in circles that people that he's dealing with are certainly not going to report him to law enforcement.
Ironically, Hawley essentially turned himself in when he reported his personal truck stolen from the county road shed. When deputies found the truck, they also found a handgun under the seat and began asking questions.
They act on tips, they develop leads.
Detectives seized ammunition, meth, and more than 20 firearms from Hawley's home. At least 3 of the guns were stolen from the Port Angeles area, and some may have come from other countries. It's still unclear where the guns were headed.
He flew under the radar. Nobody, from a law enforcement perspective, really knew what was going on, but the people that he worked with certainly did.
While on the clock, deputies say Hawley showed off the firearms to coworkers, but they believe Hawley was the only county employee involved in the gun run.
Are they being sold or transported for private sale to sportsmen for those purposes, or are they going to be used for some type of nefarious criminal activity? That's always the major concern.
And the Public Works Director says Hawley has worked at the department for 13 years. Hawley is now on paid administrative leave, and Public Works is doing its own internal investigation. Live in the Satellite Center, I'm Kristen Drew, KOMO 4 News.